When it comes to operating a tool of speed, few can match the skill of Emerson Fittipaldi. His special ability to communicate with a machine has allowed him to go faster than anyone ever in the history of the Indianapolis Speedway. Join us now at Indy, where Emerson will reveal his secrets of speed. Indianapolis, the Speedway. On a cold, windy March day, a brand new tool of speed rolls onto the track for the very first time. The tool, the latest Penske IndyCar. It has just arrived from the factory in England. Its carbon fiber bodyworks bears no sponsor's identification. The Speedway's grandstands are empty, for this is a very private test session. On hand, only the tool's designer, Nigel Bennett, the Penske crew, and the man whose job it is to operate the tool, Emerson Fittipaldi. In this program, we're going to take you behind the scenes with Emerson Fittipaldi and see if we can uncover his unique secrets of speed. For when it comes to getting the most from a tool of speed, Fittipaldi is a master craftsman. At the age of 23, he became the youngest driver to ever win a Formula One championship. 2 years later, he captured a second world championship. In 1989, he won both the Indy 500 and the Kart IndyCar Drivers' Championship. Fittipaldi's secret of speed starts with a simple idea. To get the most from a tool, you must first develop a very special, intimate relationship with that tool.
When I really like a car, I fall in love with the car. I put a nickname and I talk to the car. My last year's car was called The Woman in Red. The year before was Flying Beauty. I try to get that as well to the crew, to the mechanics. They have that feeling that's a beautiful piece of equipment that we have to work the whole year. It's part of our life. It's like our friends. It's everything. It means everything to me. It's my missus, my wife, my girlfriend. You have to feel part of the car. The part has to be part of your body. The car has to be, you have to be together with the car. And that's when you can use the maximum of the car. I mean, everything that the car feels going over a bump, a rough part of the track, approaching, breaking the corner, that information has to come immediately to you.
Fine craftsmanship comes with practice, but where does it begin? Fittipaldi started with the simplest tool, a go-kart.
I think anybody who wants to start the racing, this is the best. The best for learning, the best for getting into the technical details, and the best for traffic situation, for racing against each other. Driving a go-kart quick on a track is very similar to Formula One car or Indy car. I mean, it's incredible. Many people ask how Brazil can produce so many Grand Prix drivers the last 20 years, and I think one of the reasons has been go-karting. Here's all the Grand Prix drivers, no exception. All the Brazilian Grand Prix drivers, they all start from go-karts. Ayrton Senna, Nelson Piquet, Roberto Moreno, my brother, myself. So it's very important to have a very quick reaction on the kart. I mean, the steering wheel has to be very quick. I think approaching a corner is the most difficult thing on a go-kart, when you can really approach deep, brake, use the sliding into the corners, braking. That's the key to go quick on a go-kart. This is the best tool you can get. I mean, this is the best way to start and the best way to learn. I love still drive go-karts,
The championship EMIC Pro Kart Fittipaldi is driving may be a simple tool, but it puts out plenty of speed. Weighing just 130 pounds and powered by a 20 horsepower 100cc Yamaha motor, it hits over 100 miles per hour. Once he felt he had mastered the basics of karting, Fittipaldi moved on to open-wheel Formula car racing. By the time he was 21, he was at the controls of one of the most exotic tools in the world, a Lotus Formula One car. In his first season, he learned about the focus needed to operate at his maximum.
Sometimes, if you didn't sleep well, if you're not feeling well, you have to do it. And I remember the worst situation I had was in 1970, the US Grand Prix, Watkins Glen. Was my only fourth Grand Prix of my life. I was driving for Colin Chapman for Team Lotus, and the worst happened. I got a really high fever. I had a really bad cold the night before the race. I had the temperature the whole night. I called a doctor. He gave me some medicine. I called Colin Chapman in my room. I was sweating cold. I was over 100 temperature. When I sat in the car and I started warming up on racing morning, I concentrate. I was ready to go. I focused on the race. I didn't feel my cold. I didn't feel my temperature. I didn't feel anything. It's like the adrenaline went well over all my problems. And finally, that was my first Grand Prix ever win.
Within 2 years, Emerson won his first world championship. Then he switched to a new team, McLaren. Faced with a tooth and nail battle for the championship with Clay Regazzoni, Niki Lauda, and Ronnie Peterson, he looked for an advantage, a better way to operate the tool.
If you remember, in the past, the steering wheels used to be what we call 10 to 2 position, like on a clock. The spokes were more in angle up here. Now, I never found a really good position. I didn't think that was correct. And what I tried to achieve with this steering wheel was to have my 2 wrists right on the axle, on the mid of the steering wheel. Then would allow me to go a full 180 degrees turn without changing the position. And plus, I develop a grip like you have on a rifle, like you have on a gun. That the steering wheels used to be just a round thing with no difference on grip, and now this was designed exactly to my hand, to grip better, to hold better, and I think was a big improvement. Better feel and a better movement for both sides, a better reaction if you have to react quick, because your wrists are right in the middle of the axle. And these are what I call all the detail they have to look for racing.
Throughout the season, the drivers traded victories, no one able to gain the upper hand. Then in the final race of the season, Emerson and his steering wheel won the World Championship. Coming up next, a racing car of yesterday versus a sports car of today. Each year, man the toolmaker keeps refining, sharpening, honing his tools of speed. He's come a long way. The car that won the very first Indy 500 averaged not quite 75 miles per hour. In just a few years, though, speeds reached 100 miles per hour, and some people began suggesting the outer limits had been reached. But man, in his enthusiasm for speed, keeps making better tools. Last year, Indy's fastest qualifier, Emerson Fittipaldi, averaged over 225 miles per hour. Each year, the new tools obsolete the old ones so quickly that cars for the street today may be faster than pure racing cars of not long ago. Could this be? In the early 60s, the state-of-the-art racing sports car was this Porsche RS61, powered by a 2-liter, 165-horsepower naturally aspirated engine. It was built purely for the track. Today, this Eagle Talon is a state-of-the-art sports car for the street. Like the Porsche, it has an engine of 2 liters, but fuel injection, turbocharging, and intercooling raise its output to 195 horsepower. How does it compare with the racing car of yesterday?
it's very romantic. Go back to this era of racing. It's very nostalgic, and I mean, it was a great time of racing. Different machines, completely different. Everything happened much slower. It's much slower steering wheel. The power is very different. I mean, the last decade of the cars are so much more powerful than on the mid 50s, the mid 60s. Has been a big increase of handling, power, braking. I mean, the whole thing together is just another concept. If you drive now the Eagle Talon around this track, I mean, it's going to be so much faster, easy to drive than these cars. The whole concept is different. I mean, the driver position, the steering wheel, the pedals, and this was supposed to be at that time the best, or one of the best sports cars, sophisticated on that time, and is well behind what we have on the street car. I mean, this is a much better car than was a racing car 20 years ago. And most of the technology from the racing car of 20 years ago we are using now on the street. For me, it's very interesting on racing is the high technology, the new things that we learn on racing. It's a permanent research work that doesn't stop. I mean, that's competition. You have to be better and better every weekend.
Clearly, the tools for speed are different today, more advanced, which poses a question. Have they come so far that a great champion of the past, say Juan Manuel Fangio, would be left behind?
If you could get Fangio on a time machine and put him on the IndyCar now, or put him on a Grand Prix car now, he would be as competitive as he was. He could adapt himself to different cars. I mean, he won different championships with different cars, used different tools, but using the best he could use out of each tool he was using. Well, I drove his Mercedes that he won the 1955 World Championship. I drove at the Mercedes factory in Stuttgart, and very similar to this Porsche. You know, the steering wheel position was different, was much bigger steering wheel, the pedals, the gear shift much longer, everything happened much slower. Top speed was quite quick, but approaching a corner braking, you had to start braking much sooner, and your contact to the ground is so much more narrow than now. The car would slide quite easily. You had no belts. You have to hold yourself on the steering wheel. It's just it's a completely different technique.
What is the technique of a professional driver today? How does he approach his more advanced tools?
I can see if someone is a good driver just the way they are sitting on the car. If the person is a good driver, he's going to adjust the back of the seat properly, make sure the legs are in the correct position, the arms. When you go full extension, you have a good support on top of the steering wheel. If you have to go cross arms, you still have both sides possibility on reacting quickly and going full steering wheel. That's the basic of driving well a car. I think a smooth driver, always you can get more out of the car than if you drive too aggressive. If you just have to treat the car really nice all the time. Everything has to happen automatic on your mind. You cannot be thinking exactly what you're doing, but everything has to come from inside you in a natural way. It has to be like a flowing out of you, has to be like a coordination, has to be like in music. I mean, you have to get the rhythm, and when you get the rhythm, you do it.
Next, Emerson takes us around Indy. Indianapolis. In man's quest for speed, this is the summit. Today, Emerson Fittipaldi is testing, experimenting with a new tool he hopes will carry him faster than ever before. Prior to his tests, he joined us at the Speedway Museum for a look back.
When I see every one of these cars and I think how much sweat, effort and work has been passed on every one of these cars to achieve the success they achieved. And every time I walk in here, I get very emotional. Just looking at the cars and thinking, the history of Indianapolis. I mean, I'm looking like Jim Clark's car here from Lotus. And that has a lot of meaning for me, because that's one of the reasons I got really interested in driving Indianapolis. And that was the first time I talked to a team manager, to a team owner who had been in Indianapolis and had won Indianapolis. And then I could see that I have been many times talking with Colin Chapman. One day, I hope I can go to Indianapolis. We go together with Lotus. It didn't happen with Lotus, but I'm here now with Penske. I mean, the oval track is a completely new game. I mean, it's a new techniques, a new style of driving. You have to be really super smooth. You have to dial the car a completely different way, because it's just turning to the left all the time. The speeds are much higher than Formula One. So a driver who likes the technical part, who understands the technical functions of the car, can communicate better to the team manager, can communicate better to the mechanics. Myself, I always loved the technical part of racing. And with the help of the computer now, the electronics helping racing, it's like another step ahead. Incredible, like the test I'm doing in Indianapolis now. We are measuring suspension traveling, the G-force, the performance of the engine. Every feet I'm running the track, we know the speed I am, turning to turn 2, at the apex of turn 2, coming out. I mean, everything's measured. And we can read after the run. I can read one lap from Ricky Mears around the track, his best qualifying lap. And I can put my best qualifying lap next to his, and I can see where I was losing time. Always the driver would say, well, it's easy, flat through that corner to the designer and to the team manager. And now the team manager goes back and says, well, I don't think you're flat.
Now, let's take a ride around the famed Brickyard. Flat out in the Eagle Talon. To go fast here, what is the hardest thing a driver must do?
I think this is the one, into the corner. Here is the place that you have to be together with the car the whole time. Everything that the car starts feeling, you have to feel immediately. A beautiful handling car. We're going to turn 120 miles per hour. And approaching this corner, the transition to the corner has to be so smooth, then the car will take it, and you have to use the whole track. Here will be about 230, 232, and into the corner, mid-corner, 218, 219. When the car is pushing, you have to come down on the line here. You go below the white line. If the car is loose, you have to be over the white line. It looks 4 corners exactly the same, but you can see the wind direction showing us how strong is the wind, what direction is the wind. Then you have to decide how you are going to take it. When the car is well trimmed, my Marlboro Penske I take flat all around. I mean flat out, metal to metal. And coming back to the pit is another new technique I had to learn in Indianapolis, because this is still racing. And you come out of turn 4 and you have to come in here and start judging where you have to stop, where is your crew waiting for you. And it's so critical coming from 230 miles per hour to stop right there. I mean, ready for the crew.
How much has man improved his tools? The lap you've just completed at the Speedway, with camera crew and all aboard, averaged 116 miles per hour. Fast enough to qualify for the 1947 Indy 500.
Well, I think it must be a new record for that category in the Indianapolis, 160.
Next, the showdown. Man against man. Today's IndyCar is a near-perfect tool, a beautiful tool. Yet it's only a tool. The contest of speed, held once each year at Indianapolis, is a showdown among men, man against man. The 1989 Indy 500, the final laps. Two of the finest craftsmen, Emerson Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr., confront each other. The tools are forgotten.
I mean, this is one of the races that I have been leading most of the time. I was winning most of the time. The end of the race, after the last yellow, our junior restarted the race right behind me and he passed me. And to myself, I feel this cannot be right. I mean, something's wrong. I have to win this race. I mean, it's like that. I had a very strong willpower to compete the last two laps, like our junior had as well. And it was an incredible feeling. I remember going out of turn 2. He had some back markers that slowed him down a little bit. And I got a shot on him. I was quicker coming out of turn 2. I drafted him. I slipstreaming on the inside line. And I went side by side with our junior, and he went down on the straight to see if that way I would not have a proper line into turn 3. And on the back of my mind, I knew that corner was going to be the key for the race. See, if I'm able to come out of the corner leading the race, I'm going to win the race. And I'm sure Junior was thinking the same. I think it was the most emotional moment I had in my racing career. I mean, I never had a situation like that. We went side by side, turn 3, we were going 230 miles per hour. I was on the inside line and said, I'm not going to back off. And I knew he was not going to back off. My car was very light on aerodynamic, and we just touched. And when we touched, I was very lucky. I was able to control the car. I had like oversteering. The back end went out, and I was just able to control. I come out of the corner. I saw the yellow went on, and I knew our junior spun. Then it was a big mixture of feelings. First, I didn't know if he got hurt, if he crashed bad. I was like, oh, this should not happen. I mean, I was happy to be leading the race, winning. And then it was a great release. I called on the radio. I said, you know how our junior is? They said, well, he's out of the car. He's okay. And then I was really like a big explosion of happiness on myself inside the cockpit. I mean, it was my best win I had in my racing career.